if I told you there's one technique that can unlock anything you want, and it has nothing to do with hard work, luck, or waiting for the right time? For decades, people searched outside of themselves for answers, chasing success, love, health, and abundance, never realizing the key was already within them. Neville Goddard, one of the most revolutionary thinkers on human potential, revealed a truth so simple yet so powerful. Your imagination and assumptions are the blueprint of your reality. Neville wasn't speaking in riddles or philosophies meant for scholars. He was showing everyday people how to consciously shape their lives. And though his teachings were shared decades ago, they are more relevant now than ever, because we live in a world where distractions pull us away from our inner power, where many feel stuck, waiting for external change. But here's the truth. Waiting is the trap. Assuming is the key. When you learn to step into the feeling of your wish already fulfilled, you stop asking for change and start embodying it. That's the technique. That's the secret Neville wanted the world to know. In this video, we're going to explore exactly how this works, why imagination is not just daydreaming, but creation itself, and how you can apply Neville's method in your own life starting today. As you listen, I invite you to reflect. What if you allowed yourself just for a moment to live as though your dream was already here? What would shift inside you? This is where the journey begins. Imagination is not just daydreaming or idle fantasy. It is the very creative power of life itself. Neville Goddard taught that imagination is the foundation upon which every reality is built. Everything you see in the physical world first existed as a thought, a vision, or a mental image in someone's imagination. From the tallest skyscraper to the simplest chair, nothing came into being without first being imagined. Most people dismiss imagination as something reserved for artists, writers, or children, but Neville revealed a deeper truth. Your imagination is God in action. When you imagine with feeling, you are shaping energy, directing the unseen forces of creation toward a specific outcome. What feels real in your inner world eventually becomes real in your outer world. Think of imagination as the seed. The moment you plant a clear, emotionally charged image in your mind, the process of creation begins. Just like a seed doesn't grow overnight, imagination requires persistence and faith. But once planted, the unseen laws of the universe work to bring that seed into form. This is why Neville emphasized that assumption hardens into fact. What you assume in imagination, what you live and feel is true, must eventually appear in your reality. It is not wishful thinking, it is law. By understanding imagination as the true creative force, you move from being a passive observer of life to an active creator. You stop waiting for circumstances to change, and instead, you change the inner picture first, knowing the outer world will follow. This is the key that separates those who drift with life from those who consciously create it. If imagination is the soil, then assumption is the seed that grows within it. Neville Goddard emphasized that assumption is not wishful thinking. It is the act of living inwardly as though your desire were already fulfilled. To assume means to claim possession of a reality before it appears, to walk with the certainty that it is already yours. The mind works in patterns. When you repeatedly assume something to be true, your subconscious accepts it as fact. From there, it begins to reorganize circumstances, people, and events to reflect that belief in the outer world. This is not magic. It is law. Just as gravity pulls an object downward whether you believe in it or not, the law of assumption operates regardless of doubt. The question is not whether it works, but whether you are using it consciously or unconsciously. Most people assume the worst without realizing it. They expect rejection, disappointment, or struggle, and life faithfully mirrors those assumptions back. But when you learn to reverse the pattern, to deliberately assume the best, you unlock the secret to transformation. The key lies in persistence. It is not about forcing or straining, but about gently, consistently dwelling in the state of the wish fulfilled until it feels natural. Neville said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue feeling it until it becomes your dominant state. This means you must carry your desire as though it were already done, not as something far away, but as your present reality. In that state, doubts fade, resistance dissolves, and life begins to reshape itself around your new identity. When you master the law of assumption, you no longer chase after change. It flows naturally to you because you are already living from it. At the heart of Neville Goddard's teachings lies the law of assumption, a principle both simple and profound. It declares that what you assume to be true, whether about yourself or your world, eventually hardens into fact. Life does not respond to your wishes or fears, but to the assumptions you carry with conviction. Think of your assumptions as seeds planted in the fertile ground of consciousness. Every belief, every inner declaration is a seed that will grow if nourished with feeling and persistence. If you assume lack, life brings you lack. If you assume abundance, opportunities and prosperity must appear. The outer world mirrors the inner world unfailingly. This law demands a radical shift in responsibility. It teaches that circumstances do not dictate your destiny, your assumptions do. Many people live as victims of appearances, accepting the world as it seems. But Neville urged his students to rise above appearances, to live as though their desired reality is already true. For example, if someone is struggling financially, the law of assumption is not about hoping money comes one day. It is about assuming now, I am prosperous, I am supported, I live in abundance. That assumption, felt deeply, becomes the new foundation from which life reorganizes itself. The power of this law lies in its simplicity. No complex rituals, no external conditions, only your inner acceptance. To change your life, change what you assume. And here's the challenge, to persist. Assumptions tested by doubt must be reaffirmed until they become natural. When your assumption feels real, reality has no choice but to conform. Neville often spoke of what he called the bridge of incidents. Once an assumption is made and persisted in, life itself begins to rearrange in ways that bring about its fulfillment. These events may appear ordinary, even coincidental, yet they are the natural path leading from where you are to where you want to be. Imagine planting a seed. You cannot control how the soil shifts, how the rain falls, or how the sun warms the earth. But unseen processes are already at work, guiding that seed into a sprout, then into full bloom. In the same way, your assumption sets unseen movements in motion. People may come into your life unexpectedly, opportunities may arise suddenly, or circumstances may shift in ways you never could have predicted. These are not accidents. They are the bridge of incidents unfolding to carry you from desire to realization. The challenge is that many lose faith when things seem to move in the opposite direction of their wish. Neville reminded us that appearances deceive. What looks like a setback is often part of the bridge. A closed door might redirect you to the very path that fulfills your assumption. The key is to remain faithful to the end you have assumed. Do not micromanage the how. Do not become anxious about timing. Trust that your inner act has already been accepted and allow the bridge of incidents to unfold naturally. This principle frees you from strain. You no longer need to chase or force circumstances. Instead, you hold the end firmly in imagination and walk confidently through each event, knowing every step, even the ones that seem confusing, is guiding you toward the fulfillment of your assumption. Faith in Neville's teachings is not about religious doctrine or blind belief. It is the inner certainty that what you assume as real already exists. True faith means moving through life as though your desired outcome is guaranteed, even of all outer evidence seems to scream the opposite. It is the quiet confidence that what you imagine with feeling will inevitably harden into fact. But here lies the challenge. Doubt. Doubt creeps in when our senses contradict our assumptions. For instance, you may assume wealth, yet your bank balance shows emptiness. You may assume health, yet your body aches. Doubt whispers, see, nothing's changing. Neville reminds us that doubt is simply misplaced faith. It is still belief, but belief in failure, limitation, and lack. The real test is persistence in faith despite appearances. Faith says, I see beyond what my senses report. I live from the end. When doubt arises, the practice is not to fight it, but to gently return to your vision, to feel again the joy of the wish fulfilled. Each time you do this, your inner conviction strengthens, and doubt loses its power. In essence, faith is loyalty to your unseen reality. Doubt is loyalty to your past experiences. The one you nurture will determine the life you live. Choose faith, not as a desperate hope, but as a steady knowing. In Neville's words, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is the bridge between imagination and manifestation, and the force that transforms the invisible into the visible. No journey of transformation is free from resistance. Doubt creeps in. Fear whispers in the silence. The mind starts questioning. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm just imagining things? But remember, doubt itself is nothing more than another assumption. Fear is only imagination misused, painting a picture you do not desire. Neville reminds us that the only enemy is within. When you give power to fear, you give life to the very reality you wish to avoid. Yet the moment you redirect your imagination, the moment you choose faith over fear, everything begins to shift. Faith is not blind, it is vision. It is choosing to see what your physical eyes cannot yet confirm. Every person who has achieved greatness did so by holding on to a vision long before the evidence appeared. They walked with unwavering conviction, even when the world told them they were dreaming. When doubt arises, and it will, treat it as a signal. It's not a stop sign, but a reminder to return inward. Close your eyes. Step back into the scene of the wish fulfilled. Feel it more vividly. Breathe it more deeply. With practice, fear loses its grip. Doubt fades into silence. Because imagination, once mastered, doesn't just overcome fear, it transforms it. What was once a shadow becomes a servant, pointing you back toward the light of your vision. The key is persistence, to remain loyal to the unseen, even when the outer world tempts you to give up. The truth is this: fear cannot create, only imagination does. And if imagination is already yours, then so too is the power to dissolve doubt and step fully into the life you desire. Imagination is not just a concept to be admired, it is a force to be lived, a tool to be wielded. Neville Goddard taught that imagination is the true reality, and the world of form is simply its shadow. Everything you see around you, cities, inventions, works of art, began as a thought in someone's imagination. The same power that built civilizations lives within you. When you assume a new state in imagination and persist in it, life begins to arrange itself in ways you cannot predict. A sudden phone call, an unexpected encounter, or a shift in circumstances, all of these are signs of imagination at work. Neville often reminded his students, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. The outer world bends to the inner vision. Imagination in action requires more than idle daydreaming. It requires discipline, the ability to dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled even when the senses show you the opposite. This is the true test. Can you remain faithful to your inner vision despite appearances? If so, the invisible becomes visible and the impossible becomes inevitable. The key is to practice. Each time you consciously imagine and feel the reality of your desire, you strengthen this creative muscle. Small manifestations will begin to confirm the truth of this law, and with each success, your faith will grow. Imagination is the architect of destiny. It is not waiting for the right opportunity, the right person, or the right time. You are the source. The world is the canvas, and imagination is the brush. When you dare to imagine boldly and live from that vision, you are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the creator of them. Faith is the bridge between imagination and reality. Without faith, imagination remains only a dream, a fleeting picture in the mind. Neville Goddard taught that to live from the end, one must assume the wish fulfilled and sustain that assumption with unwavering belief. This is not blind faith. It is the certainty that what you see within will harden into fact without. Persistence is where many fail. The mind may waver, doubts may creep in, and the physical world may contradict your inner vision. Yet the key lies in persisting, continuing to live in the end, no matter what appears outside. Neville often reminded his students that the outer world is nothing but a reflection of past assumptions. To change it, you must hold steadfast to your new state, refusing to give energy to the old one. Faith is the fuel, and persistence is the engine. When combined, they create unstoppable momentum. Even if nothing shifts immediately, every moment you remain loyal to your inner vision, the unseen gears of reality begin to turn in your favor. Suddenly, coincidences appear, doors open, and people show up as though summoned by your silent conviction. The real challenge is not in imagining, but in remaining faithful when the senses scream otherwise. This is why persistence is an act of discipline, a test of trust in your own creative power. Those who endure with unshaken faith inevitably see their inner world crystallize into their outer experience. In Neville's words, faith is loyalty to unseen reality. By marrying imagination with persistence, you make the invisible visible and the impossible inevitable. Imagine a life where you no longer chase outcomes, but instead live as if your desires are already fulfilled. Neville Goddard's teachings show us that the power to create lies not outside but within, anchored in imagination, assumption, and unwavering belief. Everything you wish for begins as a feeling, a scene in your mind, a state of being you choose to inhabit. The final step is integration. To make this a natural, daily practice, every thought, every emotion, every quiet moment becomes an opportunity to reinforce your inner reality. Persist in this, even when the physical world seems slow to respond. The outer world is patient. It unfolds in perfect timing, mirroring the depth of your inner conviction. Remember, transformation is not a one-time act. It is a continuous, gentle, and conscious choice to embody the end result of your desires. By doing so, you align every action, every decision, and every moment with the life you truly wish to experience. You become not only a dreamer, but a living example of creation in motion. As you move forward, reflect on this. What if you fully trusted that everything you imagine with feeling is already yours? What if doubt never dictated your reality again? Practice, repeat, and live from that end. Observe the subtle shifts, the synchronistic events, and the effortless flow that begins to appear. Share your experiences, your breakthroughs, and even your questions in the comments. Connect with others walking this path, and let your journey inspire. Like, subscribe, and share this video to help spread the message of empowered creation. You hold the key. Step into it, persist, and watch your world transform.